Peace, guys. It's me, Arlene J. Ramsey, CEO and founder of Everyone Let's Talk, also your favorite self-wealth mentor. Today's talk is about the men who are pro-life when it comes to abortion. Men, if you're pro-life, that should go all across the board. It shouldn't just pertain to abortion. One. Two, since you're pro-life, how come more of you aren't standing up for the girls or the children who are sexually molested or abused or raped? How come you're not making as much noise about the human trafficking sector? You do know that that's a multi-billion-dollar business a year, right? It's between 43 and 48 billion dollars a year that human trafficking brings in. And under the human trafficking umbrella, about 75 to 80%, I'm checking the stats on the last talk show that I did regarding the stats, between 75 and 85, let's say, percent of the human trafficking umbrella goes towards the sex trafficking business. So that's what brings in the bulk of the money. So if you're pro-choice, why aren't you standing up for that? And you do know that sex trafficking, it's only girls and women, right? There are no boys. From the stats that I read, there are no boys that are abducted to be sex slaves. Only girls and women. Why aren't you concerned about that? But you're concerned about abortion. See, I don't want to talk about, I get it, people can't tell us what to do with our bodies. We've been saying that for years. However, this talk about abortion and banning abortion continue to arise every couple of years. And what we need is this conversation to stop, especially when it comes to banning abortion, period. Now, if we want to put some caps or reasons or limitations on when we can get abortions, I will agree with that. However, banning it completely, that conversation should never ever come up. So it brings me to this, fellas. I really think that some of you have this thing where we all know that you're here to conquer, right? And some of you have the wrong perception of what conquering is, or you choose the easy route when it comes to conquer. So I say that to say that you want a percentage of little girls and little boys that's out there by the wayside so you can abduct and send into human trafficking, because they're going to make the money for you. They're going to go through all kinds of spiritual deaths, bringing you money while your ridiculous ass really don't have to work. You're getting it at the expense of someone else's life, someone else's being, for humanity's sake. That's how you're living. All right. It tells me that you want a group of a sector of children by the wayside so you can sexually abuse, so that you can rape. You want a sector or a percentage of people that goes by the wayside that no one is going to think about, which makes it easy for your picking and easy for some of your sadistic, sick, twisted minds and cravings. That's what I think you really fight this abortion deal for. Because if you're that righteous, if you're that compassionate, if you're that caring about life and death, you should also be that caring to this depth when it comes to spiritual deaths. Now, I get it. When you abort a child, a fetus, a being, it's something that it's a life that has started that has now been ended due to the woman's choice. I get it, and I'm compassionate about that. However, in my opinion, the person that lives but that dies inside, that person is actually living a worse life than the child that you cried about that was aborted years ago, or that was just aborted. That child, that fetus, or that thing, after it's dead and gone, it's dead and gone. However, the human being that lives here and deals with atrocities has to live in spiritual pain, suffer in silence, deal with spiritual warfare, deal with being prey or be or just victimized by men and other women in this world. And you don't speak up about that. I have a serious problem with all of you who are talking about pro-life, but you do not talk about those three things that I just brought up. All right. Now, this brings me to talking about women back in the day, because some of you have brought, I used to do a lot of debates back in the day, and this was a talk that was brought up, whereas women back in the day, despite what they've been through, still had children and still raised children. So let me bring that up. They had children, they raised children. How were these children raised? What were they taught by these women? Now, back in the day, information wasn't out the way it is now. It wasn't easy to get information. Therefore, people thought that the way life was is the way it is, and the way you had to deal with life under those conditions. So there were a lot of women back in those days who were spiritually dead, who had children. However, what type of information besides school curriculum, what type of spiritual wealth have these women been able to teach their children? Right? Now, right? What did they teach them? Now let's fast forward in today's day and time. I'm not going to talk about the women who are up in spirit, those of us who are go-getters, who are making shit happen in life and are not letting life beat us down, because women like us will teach our children with the utmost information that we can give them. We will give them the best position that we could. So I'm not talking about the progressive women. Let's talk about the women who, in the percentage of the downtrodden, the down and out, the spiritually dead women. You men who are pro-lifers are not thinking about the lack of information that these children will receive being birthed from women who are abused or broken. Now, I get it. There's a few of us who make it out of that struggle. We shift the paradigm. We eat different. We self-teach, because the type of information I'm talking about, we're not taught in school, right? So in order for you to get self-aware and get empowered about who you are, you have to start getting about the business about knowing who you are. And once you get into that business, you start looking for the books that help you understand and help you navigate. That's when all that starts happening, and you start picking up speed and you start making things happen in this world for the positive. However, for the women that are not doing that, have you thought about what kind of children that are existing in this world that's birthed from those conditions? But you're pro-life. If you're pro-life, why don't you go to the adoption agencies and create agencies that help find these children good homes? Not just homes of people who want to make money off of the system, because there's a lot of people that's out there doing that, right? They're making money off of the system, yet they don't care about these children. There are plenty of children that are in adoptive homes and situations, and they've dropped out of school, they're being molested, abused, you name it. They're not being fed right. However, the people who have adopted them are making money off of them. If you're pro-life, why don't you create an agency to handle and go looking for people like that and get them out of the adoptive system, get them out of that list, because they shouldn't be adoptive parents. You're pro-life, right? So you're just pro-life. You just want women to make children regardless of the situation and how they've gotten pregnant. You just want all these children here, despite all the children that's already here that are suffering. We're not talking about the kids that are doing good. So again, guys, you understand me by now, right? I leave no one out. There's a great percentage that are doing well. So I want to leave those out, all right? Let's focus on the ones that are not doing well, and who is doing what about those situations for those children who are not living in good living conditions. So why should we continue to bring children and bring life into this world, knowing fully well that we will not be able to give them a good life? And what makes you think that you're okay to argue that point without looking deeper, without thinking 10 years in advance? Or are you thinking 10 years in advance? Because there's a lot that's said, and then there's a lot that's not said, that I'm looking for the stuff that's not being said. All right? All right? And if you have some sick, twisted, cynical reason for doing what you do, you're not going to tell the world that. So of course you're going to argue and hide behind pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. Of course you're going to hide behind that. However, in your mind, you're looking at a 5-year-old girl and you can't wait till she becomes 10 years old. Oh, wait a minute. As a matter of fact, sexual abuse started at 5. Because when it started with me, I was that age. All right. So a lot of you don't even wait. You're looking at her and you're like, yeah, you know what? Or him, little boy, that's for me. If you're pro-life, why don't you go to the churches, the Vaticans, and get with those priests who sodomize these boys? Because you're pro-life, right? If you're going to be righteous about something, you have to be righteous about it across the board. It cannot be when it suits you, right? Because this is what leaves a bunch of confusion in the world. And it leaves this discussion of women complaining about how can you tell us what to do with our body. And a lot of them have the slightest idea of what you're really thinking. They have the slightest idea of what many of you men are thinking. And many of you are not being clear. You're not projecting clarity. The only thing you're arguing is the point that you should not be having abortion and that you're pro-life because women are here to reproduce. I get it. Women are here to reproduce, but under what conditions, right? So you have a lot of women who have reproduced, like you said, and then there are a lot of men who want nothing to do with those women, but who have reproduced and dropped a child for them, right? Who's helping these women raise this child, right? Knowing that a lot of women are emotional. So they don't have a man to help them raise the child who helps her with the stress of the world. So you don't care, right, about helping her with the stresses of the world. And then you go on and you get to live your life again free as if you don't have any children, and you don't look back for that child that you dropped, but you have the audacity to say that you're pro-life. All right, men? So we need to start having better conversation of integrity and of what's really, really, really on the line and what's really important, opposed to the smoke and mirrors that the kind of conversation that we've been having. I've gotten to the point where at this age, at 39, I'm not doing that much talking like I used to do. I'm doing more listening, because more and more I listen, I understand that people have hidden agendas. All right. See, it's okay to have an agenda, but it's the hidden agendas. It's what's hurting us. And the hidden agendas is always the thing that's geared towards oppressing a certain sector of people. And those are the things that we're not bringing to the forefront. And it creates confusion. And for the life of me, I don't understand why, in this age of 2016, aren't we not getting certain things together as far as information and the circle of life? So women, when are you going to get it together and understand how some men think? We're not a man, so we can't really understand how a man thinks in day-to-day life. But when it comes to this conversation, abortion and pro-life, when are you going to get it through your head and take this term pro-life and see it from different angles, not just from a woman's perspective? Because you get into your emotions, and that's what happens when you get emotional. You lose sight of the truth. You lose sight of the truth and the bullshit. All right, see past it. Men, a lot of you got to learn to grow past your ass. All right, you look like adults, but you're not grown in mind. All right. And until many of us in this world learn to change our frequencies and raise our vibrations, we're going to continue to have this sketchy type of dialogue that we've been having. And for me, I'm not beat for it. It's really, really not for me at all. All right. People, no, I'm not beat for it. However, I just wanted to talk about that for a second to shed some clarity on this pro-life discussion that's been taking place. If you're really pro-life, you have to be pro-life all across the board. All right. Step into the human trafficking industry and help those people out. They need your help. That's again, $43 to $48 billion business per year. All right. If you're pro-life, step in and help these kids that are being sexually abused and molested and physically abused in homes. All right. Go to schools and see how these children are performing at school, because that's what pro-life is, right? So I'm going to say this again before I close out. The person who died physically is not here to feel anything. The people who are hurting are the people who loved that person or who knew that person. We're here to grieve over someone that is dead and gone, all right? However, the person themselves who are alive but they're spiritually dead,